Make a U-turn if possible. Follow the road for 11 miles. Keep right soon and continue to follow the M6. Keep right after 3/4 of a mile and continue to follow the M6. Keep next right. Follow the road for 6 miles.
People say, oh, they're all in Brexit. The Europeans are probably laughing at us now. This is madness.
Well, they have fuel shortages to deal with as well. There's certainly fuel price rises, but nothing as bad as what we see in the UK at the moment. Tell me, Eric, just to get this right, Eric, did you say that your van is also broken down, it's empty, and you can't get anywhere? And of course, you're driving around wasting the fuel to look for the fuel that you can't get. It's ridiculous. Business up and running as soon as possible. Eric and Enfield, thanks very much for your call. Let's go to Amjid in Gillingham. Amjid, you're a lorry driver, I gather. I'm a light mate. Good, thanks for calling. So how do you see the problem and where do you see the solution? So the idea of having these sped up HGV licenses, fast track, you think that's dangerous?
Very dangerous. For the supermarkets, you've got to go on assessments. I reckon the supermarket assessments will be more tougher than what the actual test will be now. You can't do it. It's a set procedure the way you must do things. You can't just jump in a lorry and go on the seat and that's it. We're going to have food, we're going to have fuel. I've done what I do before.
smaller number? Should it be much bigger, or should there be not temporary visas? What needs to be done? I mean,
There should be more infrastructure in Ireland. There should be development in Ireland. A bit more pressure.
You see that car? Came all the way from
Prepare to keep right soon and continue to follow the M6.
that's the whole point, isn't it?
Calling these
But
when I want to come and settle in this country and pay your taxes, no problem. If you're going to come here and just scam me and not pay nothing for a limited company, taking bounce back loans, go ahead and come back to your own country, tell me that, and then call me account back over. What's the point of that? That is blind.
Well, I think I
Keep right after 3/4 of a mile and continue to follow the M6.
coming over, where you're just coming over to deliver stuff and then driving back again, in which case you wouldn't be paying tax in this country anyway. Were you living here and paying tax? Well, whether you're an EU national or a British national, the IR35 thing affects both of you. So, I'm not sure if that's a nationality question, but I'm just parking that out there. Anjit, lorry driver from Gillingham, thanks very much indeed. And let me just read you a quick statement here. This is an appeal from the police in Lincolnshire, just in the last few minutes. We're asking
Keep next right.
emergency services reach people in need and allow other motorists to make their journeys safely. Following reports of long queues at some petrol stations is
Follow the road for 30 miles.
hazard to other road users. So this is the police getting involved, as we just heard from a couple of callers there, at petrol stations where people are coming to blows and losing their rag. They're not involved enough.
It's so crazy.
Watch that space. It's
And
gonna
the thing
be
is,
Basildon. David,
there
what's
is
your story?
hardly any persons at the petrol stations in Scotland. Even the service station we just stopped at. People are not really bothering. It's London, they always seem to go crazy as soon as there's anything.
The traffic was queuing in 4 different
It's so crazy. And then in a few days' time, everything is going to go back to normal and everyone's going to stop talking about it.
Yeah.
When there is not a petrol shortage, it is a shortage of tanker drivers. The fuel is sitting there waiting to be delivered. There is not a.
So what's the solution? Is it send in the army? The army has lots of drivers.
They're making it sound like it's like I don't know.
Don't fast track the HGV drivers.
There's other countries with more serious things. So what? We can't drive our cars.
Let's get the tests through quicker. Let's get them out.
Just get the bus.
Tests organised so more people can get tested quicker. And maybe there's a lot of people out there who won't do HGV driving because they can't afford the cost. So maybe the government, instead of wasting money on sending it out as foreign aid to foreign countries to help other countries, could use some of that money to cut and help pay for the driving tests for other drivers.
Well, perhaps they can do both. You don't always need to cut the foreign aid budget. Maybe you can do both.
Who've gone to garages today, he filled his car up, he opened up his boot and had 6 petrol cans in his boot and was fueling those up. The reason for this shortage and the reason why we will have a petrol shortage is because we live in a country where, it was the other word,
Yes.
but never mind you, mate, as long as I'm alright. That's it, that's the sort of society we live in. So people are rushing out there to buy fuel. They don't care about anyone else as long as they've got that
I don't
fuel
think I would like to
They
have
don't care about the
several
agency. They don't care about
petrol
the
bottles
public.
No.
in my car storing fuel. Are you crazy? No way.
Because
It's not
what Carla said earlier, the containers, those things are not,
It's there for emergency use. Yeah. There's no way I will do it. That's why I don't own one. Because I think once you own one, it's so tempting, to always make sure, I've got an extra can of petrol. But you don't know.
They're thinking of themselves and not anyone else. All because some stupid BP guy at BP turns around and says, we might have a fuel shortage because we can't get the people to deliver our fuel. Well, that's for
BP might have to put a statement out.
Don't use BP. There's not a fuel shortage at them, but people take
Because at the BP petrol station is the highest at the moment.
because
Shell is 133. BP is 159.
new paper, but much more serious. It's yet another teachable moment for our society. How are we doing so
that
far?
kind of money.
Numbers
Yeah.
0445 606 0973. David in Basel, thank you very much for your
And
call.
that's not
Keep
gonna
those
come
calls
down
coming. There are
either.
tons
But that's
of
why I
you.
say to you, I'm so happy that I work from home, because if you got to commute to and from work, I can understand why people are panicking, because, you know, they're thinking, how am I going to get to work?
Long queues could be seen at some petrol stations, with drivers filling up jerry cans due to concerns about fuel shortages. Many forecourts have brought in a £30 limit. Sir Keir Starmer is due to deliver his first in-person party conference speech since becoming Labour leader. He's arrived in Brighton for the annual event, where details of what's being called a new deal for workers will be set out. 3 more towns have been evacuated as the volcano on the island of La Palma in the Canary Islands continues to erupt. Some scientists are warning there could be explosions up until December. The weather, warm sunshine in central, eastern and northeastern areas. Southern England brightening up later, a high of 23.
LBC. Right now, small charities are making a big difference in your local community. People such as Kelly would be lost without their help.
To have her own laptop would make an enormous difference to her and to thousands of children like her.
Join LBC on Global's Make Some Noise Day, Friday the 8th of October. And
What's happened to the sunshine they promised us?
Well, I don't know, they're still talking about it, isn't it?
LBC.co.uk. Proudly supported by Vodafone, working to end digital exclusion. LBC.
Hello, I'm Albert Einstein. If you already have a smart meter, this is excellent. Because by my calculations, if everybody in Britain gets one, we could save the equivalent CO2 as roughly 70 million trees. That must be good for the planet, huh? I mean, you don't have to be, me to work that out.
Smart meters. Join the energy revolution. CO2 saving between 2013 and 2034 based on government forecasts for smart meter rollout. Consumer action required.
This is your 9:23 train to life out there. Calling out, mates night out, romantic bistro and lovely country walk. For connecting services to tea with Granny, passengers are advised to change at Trendy Museum. Journeys beyond 4 walls again. Welcome back to our trains again. Nothing reconnects us to the people, places and things we love like rail. Let's get back on track.
I've found a simple way to invest.
I found a low-cost way to invest.
I found a fair investment company. We found Vanguard.
And so have 30 million other investors worldwide. It's not surprising Vanguard is a rich recommended provider for investment platforms once again in 2020. Join us today. Vanguard, value to investors. When investing, your capital is at risk.
Looking for a business SIM that's 4 times cheaper than some of the other big networks? With Free's boundless business offer, get 10 unlimited call and data SIMs for just £5 each. That's the whole team sorted. Switch to 3 and become boundless today. Search 3 Business or visit us in store.
24-month plan excludes 20% VAT. Price comparison based on equivalent plans on Vodafone and EE websites on 4th August 2021. Terms apply. See 3.co.uk/terms/business.
Turn everyday business purchases into the trip of a lifetime with the British Airways American Express Accelerating Business Card. You'll earn 1.5 Avios for every £1 you spend, and for a limited time, you'll receive 60,000 Avios when you spend £5,000 in the first 3 months of card membership. Apply today and check out the world.
Representative 96.7% APR variable. 18 plus UK residents only, subject to approval. Offer may be withdrawn or modified at any time after 2nd November 2021. Terms apply.
This is LBC with Matt Fry. Call 0345
course, it's all very, it's horrifying, it's tragic, and it's poignant because of what happened to Sarah Everard back in March. You'll all remember that. Now, Katrina Mapuri is a journalist and writer who did attend the vigil last night. Hello, Katrina. Good afternoon. What was the atmosphere like? It must have been very, very sad.
It was just an endless gloom and also just a feeling of solidarity. I mean, it was Friday night, none of us should have been there and should have happened, but we stood there holding candles helplessly, whilst again the family just sobbed in front of us, and it was horrible.
And she was 28 years old, and she was literally walking down the road. Was it a 5-minute walk to see a friend?
5-minute walk. I went to the park. It's the kind of park I would walk down. It's the kind of park anyone would have walked down at that time.
We talked a lot about safety for women after the murder of Sarah Everard. I mean, clearly it's still a massive issue out there. How do you feel any different now to what you felt in March?
I think I can speak for women everywhere. We can try and, we can try our best to hold our peace in our hands, and we can do everything, possible. But at the end of the day, we're terrified now, and this is another knock to our confidence. I came home yesterday from the vigil, and I myself was scared and I just felt numb.
And what needs to happen for you to feel safer?
I think opening up the conversation is a really good starting point. Yesterday at the vigil, there were plenty of women there, and it would have been really, really nice to see more men attending, because I feel like the conversation needs to be had between men and between everyone, so we can all teach each other.
That's a beautiful night.
And how we can move forward and better ourselves and help each other, as opposed to just being scared and saying, oh, that's what we're going to do to change this.
What would you like men to do?
Well, first of all, turn up. That would be lovely, so that we can feel the solidarity. There were women coming on their own yesterday.
Listen to music.
Yes, most of the men there, I think, were mainly boyfriends of women. Why is that? Why weren't there groups of men saying, we're here, we want our presence to be felt, we're here to support you? So just turning up was a really good start. Second of all, talking amongst ourselves, teaching each other, maybe we could do this and this and this to help people feel safer. And then third of all, just teaching each other. And maybe simple things like correcting each other if a joke is a little bit unsavory. Things like that.
Do you think that's happened already? Are people more careful now about the kind of stuff that they blurt out, or not?
I don't think everyone is. There's a small percentage of people that are slowly willing to learn, but a lot of people seem to just see it in a defensive way. They think, oh, well, I'm not a bad person, it's just a joke, but they don't realise the consequence of that kind of joke.
Just finally, Katrina, apparently you put something on Instagram. I've not seen it yet, I have to say, that's had quite an impact. Can you tell us about it and tell us about the impact?
Yeah, of course. So it was Tuesday evening, and I was just really, really disappointed with their lack of coverage. I thought, why front page news? Why do I have to scroll to the bottom of BBC to see the story? It's appalling. And I know I'm a journalist myself, but I write about food. It's not really something I'm paid to write about, but I thought, I've got to make a post that clearly says what the police are asking for, because they call for information and help. I thought, I've got to say what happened. And I put all the information in a few simple slides, and it went viral because people were sharing it, and we suddenly had access to a story that should have been everywhere, plastered everywhere, and it only, plastered everywhere now. I think the post and the people supporting it has so much to do with it, but I don't understand why I had to do that work.
Well, I'm glad you did. Katrina Mapuri, thank you very much indeed. And of course, the investigation into the murder of Sabina Nessa is very much ongoing. We're going to get back to our subject of the morning, which of course is petrol queues, petrol stations, tempests flaring up. At times when I listen to what you guys are saying out there, it sounds like I'm living through the script of a disaster movie, some kind of apocalyptic film about society losing its rag. What was that really, really good film with Michael Douglas? He'll come to me in a minute. About someone who kind of falling down. Very good film. Let's get a Mark in Worthing. Mark, you're on the air.
Oh, hello there. Yeah.
turn off one of these roads, I'm telling you.
I tell you what,
And people realised that, and they were told that the problem.
You're gonna drive 100 miles to get back on route.
People doing jobs that we don't want to do. That
Oh my goodness.
And you know, I'm a coach driver. I've worked for different coach companies, and I've seen in the one company I worked for, 25 Polish drivers go literally overnight. They've gone back to Poland. They've organised their lives, and now we are.
What reason did they give for getting back to Poland? Because some of them presumably could have stayed here under the settlement scheme. What reason did they give for going back?
I think the problem was that they didn't feel welcome. In the particular firm I worked for, they were treated pretty bad. I mean, really bad. And so they were here, they were making a living, obviously earning a little bit more than they would have earned in Poland. And that would have given them an opportunity, you know, to make their families survive. They were paying taxes in England, so, you know, they were contributing in you know, in many ways. But,
and their cost of living would have been a lot higher here, I would have thought.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what? We'll find ways of getting around things, and you would have had 5, 6 of them, you know, rent a house and sleep, you know, basically in a 3-bedroom house. You would have had 10 people, sort of thing. You know, I don't want to discuss, you know, the practicality of that, but it's just that we were told, or people were told, that the problem was the foreigner, the person from abroad, Europe, you know, the bureaucrats in Europe, you know, making decisions for us. We have benefited from Europe as workers. You know, we've had rights upheld to our benefit, and you know.
And yet, just to be a devil's advocate here for a minute, and yet, Mark, we heard from quite a few HGV drivers, and it's limited to that specific group, who said that actually the problem of their pay has been going on for years. I mean, 15 years ago they started complaining about this. No one paid any attention. The reason why wage levels are not where they were was partly because people were, you know, undercutting them from, I mean, you know, you were happy to drive for less money if you came from elsewhere, perhaps. And at the same time, although new regulations were put in place, they didn't see their living standards rise. And that's, so at the moment, you know, we've got it from both ends. We're lucky the people that we had before who were driving for less money. We're not trading the people who could drive for a little bit more money fast enough, and we're not paying them enough.
Are we blaming the foreigners for this, or should we really blame, you know, the companies that are offering 0-hour contracts? You know, this is the problem. See, for example, this is just an example. I work and I have universal credit to top up what I earn, because the job I'm doing now, I'm paid less than I used to be. I'm a teaching assistant now, and I used to be a coach driver. Okay. Now, is it fair that you go and work for Tesco's, you're paid £9 an hour, right, and then the government has to top up your money so that you can survive in the world today? And they are making profit for shareholders, and it's just ridiculous. How can that be fair? How can this world, or this society, because we're a world now, we're all together, survive on greed? It's impossible, the way I see it.
Okay, Mark, ending on a philosophical flourish there. Mark and Worthing, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for calling in. We're going to get back to more of your callers. We are slightly running out of time. We've only got 50 minutes left on the show, but we will try and get to as many of you as possible before the end of that. I'm Matt Fry. This is LBC. The time is 12:45.
Coming up at 1 on LBC, Majid Nawaz.
Prime Minister Johnson has agreed to allow up to 5,000 foreign lorry drivers into Britain on short-term visas after BP shut 20 petrol stations and rationed fuel. Is Boris Johnson losing control of the country?
Majid Nawaz on LBC.
Everyone loves getting a great price on their favourite things, right? That's why at Sainsbury's we're not just giving you Nectar points, we're giving you your own Nectar prices too. Yep, tailored discounts on hand-picked products we think you'll like when you shop in store with Smart Shop. And the more you shop, the more tailored your discounted products become. Fancy? So what are you waiting for? Check your Nectar app to learn more about your prices. Smart Shop and digital Nectar registration required. Items subject to availability. Exclusions apply. Visit nectar.com/mynectarprices for more info.
In 1975, Vanguard was founded on a revolutionary idea to help more people become successful investors.
The idea caught on. People told their friends
30 million investors worldwide. And it's a Which recommended provider for investment platforms once again in 2020. Join us today. Vanguard, value to investors. When investing, your capital is at risk.
You've got your tickets and your passport. Now all you need is a fit to fly test from trustedppe.co.uk. Individual test kits are just £35 plus £4.95 postage. Order before 4 p.m. weekdays for same-day dispatch from trustedppe.co.uk. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
You're a visionary, an entrepreneur, a passionate business owner, driven by results and poised for growth. And you're looking for more. You need Opportuni. They easily match businesses of all sizes to winnable council, NHS and national government contracts. Just sign up, match with tenders, and they'll help with the rest. Now is the time. Take control, seize your opportunity. Get your free trial at opportuni.com. OPPORTUNI.com.
At O2, we know 1 month you could be running your business on your own. And the next month you need help. That's okay, because our business contracts can flex as your needs change. And with us you can get great deals for your business on the latest phones, tablets and SIMs. Choose the flexible network. Search O2 Business.
Eligibility and terms apply. See o2.co.uk/terms. When you own a small business, whether you're an IT consultant or selling flowers, your tech is your lifeline.
Sorry, we lost you there.
Great. But with Direct Line Business Tech Essentials, you can get your stolen or damaged tech replaced in 24 hours from claim approval. Whether it's laptops, phones or tablets, we're on it. Search Direct Line Business Insurance. Direct Line.
Covering claim limits apply Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. except bank holidays. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
So I saw Murphy Nigel playing golf, and I said, why so chilled? And he said, my car's in for a service. And I said, I thought you'd be historical. And he said, no, I bought my car direct from Cinch and got Cinch Care. Cinch Care, servicing, lifetime warranty and breakdown assistance for under £35 a month. Total peace of mind for not a lot of. And he said, wedge. Exactly, Nige. No, pass me a wedge. Which apparently is some type of golf bag. You're in the driving seat now, Britain. Cinch, cars without the faff. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Price based on 12,000 miles per year.
For thousands of years, the world has been mesmerized by gold. Trusted by the powerful, wanted by the many, but owned by the very few. For decades, Goldbank has lived and breathed gold, sourcing the finest gold from around the world, envisioning a new standard, the Goldbank standard. Want to increase your gold portfolio? Want to sell your gold at our best price? The time is now. Make your move today at goldbank.co.uk. Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with Matt Fry.
When we thought about this morning's programme, we thought we'd do lots of stuff on the Labour Party, whose conference has started, of course. We were going to talk about the volcano that's erupting in Las Palmas and has threatened the homes of hundreds of people. We were going to talk about the German elections more, but frankly, I think it's been really important for us to sound out the nation, to hear from you about what your experience is with this, and to unpeel, to delve into the psychology of this panic buying. Who is to blame? Is it Brexit? Is it the long-standing issues with HGV drivers? Is it panic buying? Is it our collective psychology in these moments of crisis? This is a tweet that someone drew my attention to from Chris Giles of the FT. It is not panic, he writes, when people buy petrol today, but a rational response to others doing likewise. Shouting, "Don't panic," will fail, as Mervyn King, once the governor of the Bank of England, said about the run on Northern Rock. Once that run had started, people were not behaving illogically in joining it. That is the problem with panic buying. That is the problem with this herd psychology. It seems utterly rational for us to try and fill our petrol tank today because of what we might want to do tomorrow or next week, and because of our very real fear of running out of petrol, not being able to drive around. And that is the psychological Gordian knot that the government has to untie, and it's going to be very, very difficult to do so. We're going to end with callers. Louis and Uxbridge, you're on the air.
Afternoon, Matt. It's absolute, I mean, South West London, my own kids is absolute pandemonium. I had to pull over because I was so stressed out from all the traffic. I've been, it would normally take me 7 hours. queue from right down on the roundabout, blockading the roundabout. So that was the first experience I had in the morning. And then in the afternoon, all the shop garages, they're completely packed, some are closed, and it's just chaotic, and people are just out of control with this because it's having a knock-on effect everywhere else. It's not rational. Whoever said it was rational to go and stop buying loads of petrol, it's not rational. You don't need it, and you're going to need your car on the forecourt over the weekend. Why go and panic buy? Why put everyone else like myself and other careers, Royal Mail drivers, the rest of it, in this situation where I'm stuck in traffic for hours on end, and I'm now stressed out behind, and I just have to take a break for today because I've never seen Kingston this bad before on a Saturday afternoon.
So what's your plan?
My car's fine. I put a full tank in on Friday morning. So,
well, knowing that this would be a problem, you plan ahead.
I just need to put a full tank in for the next 2 weeks for future.
But couldn't one say that was... But so, I mean, you were saying people shouldn't be panic buying, but the point I made with that tweet from Chris Giles is that it's a very rational response to what looks like a panicky situation to try and fill your car with petrol. And you did precisely that on Friday morning, but then you're also part of the problem.
Yeah, I get that every 2 weeks, so it's not like I didn't need it. I have to go to work every day. There's people that don't need it and making short, useless trips. I have to travel down the A40 every day to get to work, so I want to make sure that if you need the petrol, then fair enough. But there's people that don't need the petrol. Why are the queues? In Denham this morning, Denham Highway and Foxbridge, why are there queues that are stretching back maybe half an hour?
Yeah. But I think, I mean, you know, like it's a bit like the market. Things will adjust to some extent because people will think, actually, do I really need the petrol enough to wait in line, wait in a queue for an hour and a half, or to get into a fight with someone in a petrol station? Some of them will just melt away. You want the government to step in and say the right things and finding the right words in this situation, as we know, is very difficult.
Can I just say something? I think the media has completely stirred this up in the wrong direction. Ever since we've been hearing from Chaps there wasn't a problem, the media made up there was a problem. I'm going on sites looking at things, people are saying there is a problem.
I mean, that's a little bit, I mean, I don't know which media you're thinking of, but I think that's a little bit unfair. I mean, when the government says there's not a problem, what are we supposed to do? Not report it? I mean, we say there's not a problem.
Well, why are the two sides of a story? You know, you look at some people saying, the Daily Mail is reading on and saying there was a problem. I'm looking at a Telegraph this morning on my social media site. There's no problem.
Well, there was clearly an issue. There was a problem with the number of HGV drivers. We've known about that for months. You know, some people warned about it years ago. There is a problem with the number of drivers in this country, and because we import an awful lot of stuff, and it's just in time, or whatever the phrase is, we need more drivers. We've known about that for a long time, and there comes a point when there's a confluence, a coincidence of unfortunate events, if that's the right phrase, when it all comes to a head, and that's what we're living through right now. Louis in Uxbridge, thank you very much. Let's go to Aziz in East London. Aziz, you're on the air. I'm okay, thanks. What's your experience been with all this?
So basically, I've just been out to do the local grocery that we do every weekend, and Saturday went into the supermarket to get inside to do the local groceries. The queues are backing out onto dual carriageway.
So these are grocery queues at the supermarket?
Basically, yeah. So then you don't have the supermarket at the forecourt.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not talking about petrol, you're talking about people panic buying food now?
No, I went to go to do the groceries and pick up the dog because I'm on the road, but I'm panic buying. So I wanted to hit two birds with one stone.
Pretty sure, yeah.
It's only here into the air.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Aziz. See what you've got stocked in the fridge, on the larder cupboard. Thank you very much for that call. Aziz in East London. Let's go to Jan and Staines. Tony in Horsham, I'm sorry, not Jan. Jan's gone. Tony in Horsham, you're on the air.
Oh, yes, hello. Just to say that I was one of those who was panic buying, and I heard someone on LBC about an hour ago saying that they were trying to get around their elderly, vulnerable patients and they couldn't get petrol, and she was out at Because if there are emergency services, ambulances, and health service workers trying to get down care homes and patients, that's far more important than anything I have to do. And I'm certainly not going to go out and get or even try and get petrol this weekend because I absolutely have to go out.
And it was Shaz in Greenwich who changed your mind?
Yes, yeah, I'm trying to sway my family as well not to go out unless they absolutely need to. I just went out to get petrol, went around 3 or 4 stations, and the queues were ridiculous, and now I just realised that actually I don't really need to go out, and I'm not going to, and I'm just trying to sway my family as well. Just think of those.
The traffic situation has changed. Would you like to start the alternative route?
You need to not be stuck in jams.
I salute you.
Follow the road for 1 mile.
To do. You kind of revive the spirit of the lockdown, of the first lockdown. You remember when we, after some nudging, it has to be said, and after a few, moments of breakdown from nurses who were working all that long and couldn't go into supermarkets to buy the food that they needed, there was a realization that things had gone too far. We all stepped back a little bit. Thanks so much for that.
Prepare to keep right soon and continue to follow the M6.
Solution to the driver shortage, and that is to bring in the army. They did this about 20 years ago and had the tanker driver shortage, strike rather, and also the army drivers. They've got HGV drivers in the army, in the territorial, they're not in Afghanistan now. They bring those in because the companies and the other drivers will bring the army in. It's a lot quicker than issuing work permits and visas and that sort of thing. It will solve the problem overnight.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're thinking.
Keep right after 3/4 of a mile and continue to follow the M6.
Short and sweet, very practical solution there. Bring in the army. Let's wait and see if that actually happens. Thank you so much to all of you for listening, for calling in. What an extraordinary experience we're living through. Let's hope we get through it. Let's hope that things get back to normal at some stage, by hook or by crook, with army drivers or new visas. Who knows? We're bringing the reaction, of course, from the German elections here in Berlin, where I've been speaking from all morning, if and when it comes. It's an exciting one, a real cliffhanger.
Keep next right.
As we stay in Germany, that is to all of us, Brexit or no Brexit. Ad 4, David Lammy, up next. Virginia Woods.
Follow the road for 32 miles.
Embarrassment for the Labour Party conference after his attempts to rewrite election rules for leadership were blocked by unions. Is Keir Starmer losing his grip on the Labour Party? Before that, Boris Johnson has agreed to allow up to 5,000 foreign lorry drivers into Britain on short-term visas after BP shut 20 petrol stations and rationed fuel at up to 100 sites. With surging gas prices, the closure of smaller energy providers and rising household bills, CO2 shortages leading to disruption of fertiliser and food supplies, and lorry driver shortages causing petrol rations. We're asking, is Boris Johnson losing control of the country?
Where did you get that biscuit from again?
On your radio, on Global Player, and
That's the Ghana one?
leading Britain's conversation.
Still in your bag?
Is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 1 o'clock, it's not lorry drivers from overseas could soon be allowed to work here as panic buying continues at petrol stations. The government's reportedly going to relax immigration rules to tackle the shortage.
The traffic situation has changed. Would you like to start the alternative route?
Pound limits on each transaction. Richard Benchel is a professor.
Follow the road for 53 miles.
He says stocking up on goods if there's worries about supply is a natural instinct.
Animals do this. Animals are very sensitive to the availability of resources in the environment, and if those resources start to go down, they'll start to forage and they'll start to hunt stuff. And that's human beings are no different. We are animals after all.
The government insists there's ample supply. Labour says the crisis was completely unavoidable. This driver is in a queue at a petrol station in South London.
I've literally been driving around all over London since, well, for the last 4 or 5 hours. Closed petrol stations. I've literally driven past 20 fuel stations in the last 3 or 4 hours, and they've all been closed. And so, yeah, I started to panic because we're
You spent 4 hours driving.
Labour's
Why
annual
didn't you?
conference is getting underway in Brighton. Leader Sir Keir Starmer has already had to water down proposed reforms to the party's constitution following resistance from unions and party activists. But his deputy, Angela Rayner, is defending him, saying people don't see him as weak.
What they see is somebody who's very
But we got to go into
serious,
London
who's
on
very
Monday, isn't it?
forensic, and who tackles the government in a very constructive way.
The deaths of 3 children and a 73-year-old woman at
Is
a
it a
hospital
phone
in
appointment?
Glasgow are being investigated by police.
The
They were
7th?
all
Oh,
being
okay.
treated at Queen Elizabeth University Hospital. Proceedings are at an early stage, but it could potentially lead to a fatal accident inquiry or criminal charges. One of the founders of the Taliban is claiming the group will resume executions and amputations as punishment. Mullah Nuruddin Turabi has told the Associated Press no one will tell us what our laws should be, and is warning the world against interfering in the plans. The comments come weeks after the militant group took control of Afghanistan following the withdrawal of Western troops. Final practice ahead of the Formula One Russian Grand Prix has been called off due to heavy rain. A decision will be made later about whether to move qualifying, which is scheduled to start now, to tomorrow morning
You know
instead.
you're in England
And
when
the
there's so
weather,
much
warm
rain.
sunshine in central, eastern and northeastern areas, southern England brightening up later, a high of 23.
They said all day it's going to be hot.
I'm Tim Humphrey.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Majid Moaz.
Good afternoon, it's Maddie Noyes here on LBC leading Britain's conversation for the regular weekend show. Boris Johnson has agreed to allow up to 5,000 foreign lorry drivers into Britain on short-term visas after BP shut 20 petrol stations and rationed fuel at up to 100 sites. With surging gas prices, the closure of smaller energy providers and rising household bills, CO2 shortages leading to the disruption of fertiliser production and food supplies, and lorry driver shortages causing petrol rations now. Is Boris Johnson losing control of the country? More on all of that in just a moment, but LBC's reporter James Goodison is at a petrol station in Brixton and brings us up to date on what's going on there. James.
Well, imagine throughout the start of this day, it has been chaos at this petrol station. A huge queue of about 24, 25 vehicles all down a bus lane here on Brixton Road. That isn't the case anymore. 6 hours after opening, this petrol station has run out entirely. I'm now across the road watching a very sad loop where hopeful drivers, I suppose, are swinging into the forecourt, seeing the fact that all of the pumps are roped off, there's red tape around them, and then sort of sadly swinging out and going back on their way to find another one. And that is no small order, because lots of petrol stations across London, indeed across the UK, are seeing a huge amount of queues at the moment. Earlier today, when there was one outside this petrol station, I asked some of the people why they came down here.
I've been trying to get petrol since about midnight, and I've literally been driving around all over London since, well, for the last 4 or 5 hours.
What have you seen?
Closed petrol stations. I've literally
This
driven
is what's not making any sense. If you have 4 or 5 hours worth of fuel in your car, stay at home.
I'm starting to panic because we're taking our daughters back to university on tomorrow, and we need to get out there.
Every petrol station is either shut or there's a queue on the future open.
You're a campy, so petrol's crucial for you.
It is, certainly. I've got electric, but that only comes me about 4 hours a day, so I do need it. A lot of these probably don't. They just join the queue, and I don't think that's right. And I hope the government sorts something out very quickly.
It's ridiculous. I don't know why there's all this panic buying. I'm down to my last 32 miles, so I'm having to refuel.
All the people with electric cars probably going, ha ha ha.
Etc. So why are people up this time of morning, Saturday morning? I mean, normally the traffic's it's quite quiet, so I wouldn't be getting up at this time. You know, it'll be another hour, but I've had
I don't like the idea of an electric car, but more and more.
I imagine there were effectively 2 different groups of people queuing up for petrol here today. There were people who had a vocation, driving instructors.
All of us going to end up driving electric cars eventually.
Things like that, cab drivers, all of them who were effectively delayed from starting their work because
I'm going to hold out as long as possible, though.
Members of the public filling up petrol, whether that be because they're low on their tank or because
when you're going on long journeys,
is really split. But of course,
anyway, I guess by the time that they roll out,
not a shortage of
where everybody's using electric cars,
drivers who deliver the petrol.
There'll be lots
the station
of
itself.
charges everywhere.
The clerks here at this petrol station and asked them whether they'll be getting a delivery tomorrow. They said, we don't know, we haven't been told. by the petrol delivery company whether we're going to get one. And I said, well, what sort of time can we expect it if it does come? They said, well, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, or maybe even later at midday or something like that. So there's a huge amount of uncertainty when it comes to when these deliveries are coming. Now, the government are making attempts to combat this. They made a statement last night saying they were looking at temporary measures to avoid any immediate problems. They didn't elaborate further, but it's largely expected that that's going to result in a temporary visa change to make it easier for companies to recruit drivers from abroad, reportedly to be announced tomorrow. But at the moment, we're still seeing lots of cars driving around looking for petrol and long queues that we really aren't accustomed to.
That's LBC's reporter James Goodison. James, thank you very much. And we're on that topic of the HGV lorry driver shortage. What is causing it? What can be done about it? Let me first of all begin by re-emphasising that we shouldn't panic. It doesn't help the situation, and those who don't need petrol shouldn't be rushing to the forecourts to try and fill up their cars and their jerry cans. It only makes the situation worse. Now, in terms of causes, I'd also like to re-emphasise that this has multifaceted reasons behind it. First of all, it is important to remember that there is a lorry driver shortage in Europe, not just in the UK. As the Financial Times has already reported, Europe has an estimated 400,000 shortage of lorry drivers, according to research group Transport Intelligence, with workforce stretched by the pandemic-induced boom in online shopping. That's according to the Financial Times. But it's also a global shortage. Another piece in the FT, a global shortage of truck, the direct quote for you, a global shortage of truck drivers has persisted since the mid-2000s. The human dimension of a deteriorating global driver shortage that has tipped into a crisis only recently visible to the wider public. There's also a shortage specifically even in the US, and as reported by Yahoo Finance on their website in a piece, truck driver shortage is as bad as I've ever seen, US Express CEO. And they state that data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that in the depths of the COVID-19 pandemic, the truck transportation industry lost 6% of its pre-pandemic labor force of 1.52 million workers. So we have to look at all the factors together. I do not think that this is the time to start playing the blame game and for people to start pointing fingers at those who they think are their lessers for having voted in a way that they didn't want them to vote, and now see this as an opportunity to say I told you so, because actually, frankly, they would be wrong. There is a global labour shortage, that's just a fact, and as I've just read out for you, there is specifically a global truck driver shortage, not just in Britain where we're short 100,000 truck drivers, HGV drivers, that figure as reported by the Times today. But as I mentioned to you in the FT, Europe is short 400,000 drivers, and the US also is short of lorry drivers. So not only is there a global labour shortage, there is also specifically a global lorry driver shortage. In addition to the labour shortages that are triggering this crisis, of course Brexit has a role to play, because of free movement that has been suspended, of course, due to Brexit has been terminated, and the added bureaucracy then required to get into the country. So it's not right to deny that Brexit plays a role, but it's also not right to pretend that that's the only cause. It's a partial reason, but then it's not as simple as that. The truck driver shortage in the UK has been ongoing for around 15 years, and any drivers that the Prime Minister has now said 5,000 can come in from abroad, do keep in mind that that's only for 6 months, and it still isn't a long-term solution, because what we really need is to retrain our domestic labour force so that they can fill the gap of the 100,000 that are short, the gap in this market, and that can have a stabilising effect on domestic wages. The temporary permission for 5,000 lorry drivers to come from abroad needs to remain temporary, otherwise it will not, in the long run, have the stabilising effect on wages that we require domestically. So there is, of course, Brexit plays a role. There's also IR35 tax changes that play a role in the shortage of lorry drivers, and changes to licences for working conditions that have been building up for about 15 years due to the cheap cheapness of the labour force and people not wanting, as a result, to do that job, low wages, not attracting workers, and importantly, furlough, the scheme that comes to an end in a week. Furlough still has 600,000 people on furlough. There's 100,000 shortage of lorry drivers, 600,000 people are on furlough. And they could be, some of them, not all of them of course, retrained if they so required. There is also 1 million jobs going in this country that need filling. So if you look at the situation, you realise that what built up to this is a long history of neglect of the sector.
I don't understand how people who don't have any work can be so fussy.
To the current day,
you know, some people don't have no jobs, but they'll be like, oh, I'm not going to work here, or I'm not doing that job.
And furlough,
that's rubbish.
The consequence of paying people not to work.
You know, if I don't have a job,
situation where the economy shut
you
down
take whatever job you can get until you get the one that you really want. You don't stay at home and do nothing and be on benefit. I mean, what kind of life is that?
250% increase, 4%.
There's nothing wrong in having financial help from the government, but it should be a temporary thing.
Of causes that have come almost in a perfect storm.
You can't be on that forever.
This time. So when understanding what's causing the problem, it's important to be multifaceted, because then otherwise...
You think you can be on government help and go on holiday and live the standard of life that you want to live? No, you can't.
When you look at Brexit as a particular cause,
so it's better.
That part of it isn't going to be reversed. So what we need to be able to do is look at
I can't live that life.
Such as the domestic labour shortage and the 600k on furlough, how to make sure that some of those 600,000 on furlough when it ends can fill the 100,000 shortage of
so many things you can do.
How to smooth the license changes, how to smoothen the IR35 changes.
And again, it's how you look at things. Because some people will tell you straight up, they ain't going to work at McDonald's, they're not going to work at KFC. But if I lost my job today or tomorrow, Mom, I'm telling you,
though not a major factor, has also
I will go and work at McDonald's or at KFC. Or at whichever one. Because in my mind, I will say to myself, right,
lose control.
I give myself 6 months before I'm team leader,
Brexit, which frankly it is, just
then supervisor,
and it's actually playing politics.
then before you know it, I'm store manager. Do you understand? You're not going to think to yourself, oh, for the rest of your life you'll be like wiping the tables or whatever. No, you have to start from somewhere. But if you know what you're capable of, you just you work your way up. Within a year, you'd make progress. And before you know it, you're running a store. It's how you want to look at it. There's no way I'm going to work at McDonald's and be on till for the rest of my life. Are you crazy? Unless, of course, because I know that there's some people who prefers to just do their 9 to 5 and go home. You know?
The year 2000, when
no responsibility.
No responsibility. You know, and I see that with my job, because at the end of the day, with my job, people will hand over the stuff, and if there's problems, you know who's going to stay back, and you understand, because you got that responsibility.
In the polls, and indeed didn't lose an election every time he ran it.
People are too fussy.
General elections, and yet it nearly happened to him too in the year 2000. Boris Johnson.
And this is the thing. That's why they keep bringing migrants over
and really act fast
to do the jobs. And then people are complaining. All the foreigners are taking our jobs.
Probably in for a difficult winter.
But if you won't do the job, somebody has to do it.
All of these problems coming together, conflating together at the same time. With the surge in gas prices, 250% increase in wholesale prices, the closure of small energy providers, rising household bills as a result, the recent CO2 shortages, which has led to disruption of fertilizer food supplies, lorry driver shortages, leading to rationing in petrol stations, 4% inflation.
Because just imagine
COVID,
the supermarket drivers, the drivers who delivers the food to the supermarket,
we are probably in for a difficult
they're offering them £53,000 a year.
Resist turning on each other, pointing the finger at each other.
But still there's a shortage.
We must resist.
Because I guess it's not, you see, it's not an easy job. Because one guy was saying, yeah, the wages might have gone up, but he said when you go to deliver, you've got to help. It's not like you can just, you know. You said sometimes you have to unload the vehicle yourself. You can't just drive, and when you get there, you sit down and have a cup of tea and a sandwich while your vehicle is offloaded. Now you've got to help.
Chocolate from the Lindt Master Chocolatier. A moment of bliss wherever you go.
And that's a lot.
Right now, there's 25% off all F&F clothing at Tesco on club card prices. That's 25%
yeah, because back in the day at Sam and Sonny there, the vehicles just used to pull up by the warehouse.
Available in the majority of larger stores. Excludes Express and Next. Clubcard.app required. Ends Sunday 26th of September.
These guys have just discovered the better way to buy their next car, and they're all over it. They've gone online to Kazoo, picked out the car they love, and can collect it or have it delivered to their door. And they'll get a 7-day money-back guarantee to make sure they love it. Play us out, boys. Can you buy a car that's guaranteed to leave you happy? Kazoo, yeah, you can.
Hello, Britain. Albert Einstein here. To those of you who have got a smart meter, I applaud you. You are helping to modernize Britain's outdated energy system, helping us use more renewable energy. The downside of doing this message on radio is that you can't see that I'm proudly toasting you with a cup of Earl Grey. But the upside is, you can't see that I'm still in my dressing gown. Cheers.
Smart meters. Join the energy revolution.
I've found a simple way to invest. I found a low-cost way to invest. I found a fair investment company. We found Vanguard.
And so have 30 million other investors worldwide. It's not surprising Vanguard is a rich recommended provider for investment platforms once again in 2020. Join us today. Vanguard, value to investors. When investing, your capital is at risk.
The Admiral and Mrs. Taylor are relaxing by the lake.
Oh, thanks for the latte. Just a little thank you for helping with my insurance. I bundled my son's car, my home, and my mum's cottage and saved £301.
Yeah, all your family cars and homes protected, even at different addresses.
And everyone gets a discount.
Save up to £301 on your car and home insurance with Admiral Multi-Cover. Rewardingly simple. 10% save versus like-for-like policies November 2020 to April 2021.
Fit to fly tests from Trusted PPE. Order before 4 p.m. weekdays for same-day dispatch from trustedppe.co.uk. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
Across the UK, thousands of people are switching broadband every day because they've realised if they're out of contract, they could be out of pocket. There has never been a better time to switch and save. Get Vodafone Superfast broadband from only £19.50 a month. Switch today. Together we can. Vodafone.
See code for 3% decrease each April. 24-month contract subject to credit check acceptance and availability. Cheaper versus application. The price of new competitors is 17th of the 8th, 2021. Terms and verification at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Budget Wars on LBC. Call 0345 6060.
Good afternoon, and the lines are open. We're asking, is Boris Johnson losing control? Does he need to get a grip with multiple crises affecting the country right now? Of course, the lorry driver shortage causing a rationing of fuel at petrol stations. There is not a fuel shortage, there is a delivery problem, and that's caused by a lorry driver shortage. Is Boris Johnson losing control? 03456060973. James is on the line from Barnes. Welcome, James.
Hi, Magic. Morning. I think we're being a bit disingenuous, Magic, because I didn't think that Boris Johnson was ever in control of anything.
Yeah, but is it getting worse?
Clearly. I think the most worrying thing about this, for getting who's to blame, is that when you see what's going around London today, and I'm sure it's the same everywhere, and you hear that emergency can't get petrol. This is a situation, this is more frightening in a way than when we had a lockdown, because this is the situation that is going to spiral to the extent that this is going to shut down this city unless the government starts to take control of this. Because if they just leave it and think it's going to sort itself
outside of just the fuel deliveries themselves, but of course everything that requires delivery uses fuel and lorry drivers. So when you think postal services, you think food deliveries, it ends up having a knock-on effect on everything. Medicine deliveries for pharmacies.
The whole thing. And I think you have to say, where is the government? Where is Grant Shapps? Who is taking charge of this serious, dangerous, potentially life-threatening situation in this country? And no one is, because this will not sort itself out, Majid.
What I don't understand, James, is why they need to demonstrate a sense of urgency and what's going on.
Exactly.
Well, why? Surely, as I've just mentioned, that even Tony Blair nearly, he lost his lead in the opinion polls over this 2000 over fuel trade. Surely they realise that, as Margaret Thatcher made very clear, that the Tory government can weather unemployment because usually it's those that don't vote Conservative that lose their jobs. Especially if it's just beginning, it's usually the more lower paid earners that lose their jobs first. And she said, but they cannot weather inflation because that hits everybody, including the elderly on pensions and the ones who vote Tory. So surely the government understands that with 4% inflation and these shortages hitting, that this could be an existential crisis for them.
You can't with that. I think the government actually, clearly, as they have shown time and time again, are not very bright, Majid. And I think that the sad thing is that because the opposition that you've spoken about in the past is so intense, it allows the government to wipe the floor through all the mistakes we've seen. And I know you say you can't blame Brexit, and I'm not about that.
Well, it's one factor. It's one factor.
But I think that what has happened is that COVID has suppressed the extent that Brexit is going to affect our nation. And it's only since the relaxation of lockdown and the increase in people needing fuel and the increase in traffic on the roads that it suddenly created this situation.
There's only one correction I'm making what you said, James, and it's that it's rather than saying COVID did this, it's lockdown that did this because
The lockdown, exactly, yeah. The lockdown, so the government locked down and the suppression of people so that they didn't go out, that they didn't travel. And all of a sudden now, normality is coming back in so much as travel and people using their vehicles, their cars. And this has now created a situation that was no doubt going to happen. And it's over now. And this is basically down to the government's lack of foresight and lack of planning. Because clearly, anybody with any government with a brain would have had some plan in place for this measure.
James, you're correct, and there's nothing much I can say to dispute what you said. Thank you for calling. Again, to emphasise, yes, of course, Brexit does play a role. It's important not to deny that. It's also important to say, as does lockdown. And the funny thing about this, out of my listeners, I'm probably the only one that will blame both. I mean, there are a lot of people who want to blame Brexit who supported lockdowns. A lot of people who didn't support lockdowns and supported Brexit. And let's be fair, folks, right? Lockdown and Brexit played a role. Alright, let's not pretend that your political favourite thing isn't responsible for this problem and their political favourite thing is. No, I opposed I voted against Brexit and I didn't like lockdown. And to be fair, though I'm now saying we've got to get over Brexit and stop whinging about it and we're going to work together to make the country a better place, it does play a role in this, as does lockdown. As James just said, the pent-up demand that has now suddenly been unleashed onto the economy has caused supply chain problems, and that is a direct result in 18 months being in lockdown. It's impossible to ignore that, and that's why I said even if you look at the figures in the US with the lorry driver shortage, a 6% drop in their pre-pandemic labour force due to lockdown. Peter from Wellington, welcome. Tell us what you think. Welcome, sir.
I've been listening to what's been going on and all that, and obviously labour shortage. There's one simple solution that will give you is that we run about 1,000 drivers today. And that is the government
to be over 5 years. You can't just get it in something shorter.
You can do it now if you do it a week, but it lasts for 5 years.
Right, it lasts for 5 years.
So people don't give its term until the last month, and they give a whole 5 days. You can do the same day, 7-hour course for 5 times and still have that certificate because you don't have to do 5 different courses. It's 5.
But do you think, Peter, that will be enough to fill that we've got 100,000 shortage?
Initial crisis that we seem to be going through now. Long term, I don't think it will. It will get us through this crisis. But at the moment, for instance, say if an around South foreigners can come to the UK and drive.
5,000.
I'm sorry, no, they can't. Because they have to have the driver's CPC. They have to have a dangerous goods license to drive tankers, which is another thing I think. Don't quote me on this because I'm not up on this, but it's about a 3-day course plus an exam which you must pass, and it will cost you £1,000 plus. You know, who's going to pay for that?
Peter, what's the salary at the moment for an HGV driver?
If you work for some companies, you're still on £9.50, £9.75 an hour. If you work for an agency, and the agency are basically including the companies to ransom, they go to the highest bidder. You're looking at anything from £17 to £20 an hour.
Wow. It's a difference, isn't it? Agency drivers and company drivers. So that's why a lot of people prefers to work for an agency. But you see the problem with agency, they pay you more, but then you're responsible for your taxes. So it's catch-22. Yeah. If you need the job security, then. But I guess if you're retired and you're just doing work on the side, maybe that stuff suits you. I like the job security, so I could never work. Well, never say never, I guess, but I wouldn't. It wouldn't be my choice to work for an agency, even though the money is a little higher.
That's just if you got
The government started subsidising drivers like yourself who own their own trucks for drivers to come in on the weekends. So instead of you paying £20 an hour, they subsidise you to help employ somebody to use your truck on the weekends.
That'd be fantastic, and I could say yes, please bring it on. But as it is,
I like the idea that when I get my wages, my tax, my NI, my pension, everything's come out. I don't want to worry about anything.
All right, Peter, thank you for calling us. Some helpful suggestions there from an insider. We'll carry this on, folks. Don't go anywhere. The time now, 1:31 here on LBC. It's time for the news headlines with Tim Humphrey.
Temporary measures to try to tackle the shortage of HGV drivers are expected to be brought in as long queues are again reported at petrol stations around the country. It's understood Boris Johnson will allow ministers to relax immigration rules and issue temporary visas. Sir Keir Starmer says Labour's ruling National Executive Committee has backed his revised set of party reforms. They still have to be ratified by constituency and trade union delegates at the party conference in Brighton. A teenager is in a life-threatening condition in hospital after being stabbed in East London. The 15-year-old was attacked in Upminster yesterday afternoon. There have been no arrests. And the weather, warm sunshine in central, eastern and northeastern areas.
Warm sunshine? Where's the sunshine?
23.
These people are crazy.
LBC, you're a
Warm
visionary,
sunshine.
an entrepreneur, a passionate business owner, driven by results and poised for growth, and you're looking for more. You need opportunity that easily match businesses of all sizes to winnable council, NHS and national government contracts. Just sign up, match with tenders, and they'll help with the rest. Now is the time. Take control, seize your opportunity. Get your free trial at opportunity.com. OPPORTUNI.com.
For thousands of years, the world has been mesmerized by gold. Trusted by the powerful, wanted by the many, but owned by the very few. For decades, Goldbank has lived and breathed gold, sourcing the finest gold from around the world. Envisioning a new standard, the Goldbank Standard. Want to increase your gold portfolio? Want to sell your gold at our best price? The time is now. Make your move today at goldbank.co.uk.
Looking for a
business SIM that's 4 times cheaper than some of the other big networks. With Three's boundless business offer, get 10 unlimited call and data SIMs for just £5 each. That's the whole team sorted. Switch to 3 and become boundless today. Search 3 Business or visit us in store.
24-month plan excludes 20% VAT. Price comparison based on equivalent plans on Vodafone and EE websites on 4th August 2021. Terms apply. See 3.co.uk/terms/business. Everyone loves getting a great price on the favourite things, right? That's why at Sainsbury's we're not just giving you Nectar points, we're giving you your own Nectar prices too. Yep, tailored discounts on hand-picked products we think you'll like when you shop in store with Smart Shop. And the more you shop, the more tailored your discounted products become. Fancy? So, what are you waiting for? Check your Nectar app to learn more about your prices. Smart Shop and digital Nectar registration required. Items subject to availability. Exclusions apply. Visit nectar.com/mynectarprices for more info.
In a world ruled by speed, where destinies are decided by downloads, a hero has arrived. I meant Blue Sky Broadband Ultra Fast. It's 10 times faster than standard fiber, making everything you do online feel epic. The next generation of broadband is here. Blue Sky Broadband Ultra Fast.
Already available to 50.7% of UK homes, and we're adding more every day. Comparison of average download speed of Ultra Fast Plus versus standard fiber speeds measured through to csky.com.
Tesco Club Card has the power to lower prices on all sorts of bits for the house, like 50% off the Silent Night range and 50% off Simply Soft towels. It can't stop your other half snoring though. Nothing's that powerful. Get exclusive deals at Tesco with your Club Card or app. The power to lower prices. Majority of larger stores, Club Card or app required. Delivery charges may apply as 29th September.
This is LBC with Majid Nawaz. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Good afternoon, it's Majid Nawaz here on LBC. There's a great text here I want to read to you from Adam in Stoke-on-Trent. Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate texts like this because it's everything I hope to be able to do or achieve through these sorts of conversations. It says, I've been militant about Brexit for some time, but I'm glad I listened to your introduction. We need to come together rather than attack each other with our own views. I think both sides of the Brexit debate can come together and agree that it's the government where the buck stops. They have failed to plan, prepare and implement their policies, and it is they who have overseen what has gone on. Adam from Stoke-on-Trent. Great text, thank you, Adam. That's my message, basically, and I'm glad Adam has come to that. My hope is that we take people that voted Remain, like me, and that we have a responsibility to realise that right now we are on the verge of a very terrible and difficult winter, but we need to pull through it together, and we won't be able to pull through it together if we turn on each other. Jan from Staines, welcome, Jan.
Thanks very much for taking my call. I just want to say, yes, it's ridiculous out there. People are behaving in very selfish ways. And I'm just thinking of a practical solution to this. And my heart goes out to a woman a little while ago who was a community nurse. I myself was a community nurse, and I'm actually going on holiday for the first time for ages tomorrow in this country. One of my worries is will I get back? And what I'm also thinking is, people are queuing, I've seen it, and the roads are ridiculous. There was a previous caller in Kingston area, and that's where I was yesterday working and trying to battle with the traffic, and they were all queuing at petrol stations. But probably they've got like down to 3/4 of a tank, and then you just have to top it up. And then they put £10 in or £5 in. And also filling up jerry cans, which I actually think should be illegal in situations like this. And it should be, it's a one-off fee, £30. You get £30 of petrol. You know, whether it costs you £30. So people wouldn't be queuing for ages just to put a few litres of petrol in because they're worried about not having a full tank. Then it would be the people that really need the petrol that would actually be buying it. And I think people would think twice if they knew the minimum charge was £30.
Yeah. Well, Jan, this is we've been here before with toilet roll, obviously, unfortunately, human behaviours, no matter how much we tell people not to panic, they're clearly, no matter how much I wish it were the case. There's 70 million in this people in this country aren't going to be tuning into my show to hear your message. So unfortunately, human behaviour it's like that. So one thing is we can shout from the rooftops, don't panic, and yet it's still going to happen. What does government in your view, Joe, need to do to get a grip on the situation?
Well, actually, they probably should call the army in now to sort the problem out. But they need to invest in training. As you've often said, we have a skill shortage. Whatever the reason that may be, it is what it is. And the government need to invest in retraining people and getting people into jobs where we haven't got them. I know myself as a community nurse, we struggle recruiting people into my team. And we need to be looking at that. And the same goes for, I was listening to your previous caller. What a rotten job he's got. What a difficult job he's got. And he's not actually getting paid very much money for a lot of skill and a lot of legwork.
And long hours, right? When he told me his hours that he works and he sleeps overnight in his cab, that's a hard-working person, right?
Yeah, and who wants to do that? So he needs to be investment. And petrol tanker drivers, I don't know how much they get paid. I used to think it was quite a lot.
Close to the edge.
You know, it's a very, very important job they do.
Jan, exactly. People often don't realise that when you're carrying flammable liquids in that, whether it's gas, petrol, there's extra levels of training you have to be aware of exactly how to drive that vehicle and what to do. Because clearly, if there's a road traffic accident, it's no longer just about you and the other vehicle, but also all the petrol that's stopped in the back.
So, I'm off to Lincolnshire tomorrow, and I really hope I get enough petrol to come back and carry on with my community nursing.
Well-deserved break. Thank you for calling, Jan, and thank you for everything you do as well. That's Stuart from Barnet. Welcome.
Hi there, Majid. Basically, I hear what's going on. But in relation to the last gentleman with the CPC training that he's speaking with, I inquired about, I'm a qualified electrician. I used to drive lorries years ago to Urban Extend and then came off the lorries, retrained to become a qualified electrician today. I recently inquired to do CPC, so I'm going to get back in the wagon again, do extra hours here, there and everywhere wherever I can possibly do so. But it was an initial fee where you got to pay 300 well it wasn't 300 in fact, I was told it was 225 with one company, another company was 275. So it's below the £300 figure. Well, it's a 5-day training course, and then you have to renew this licence every 5 years. But the problem is, your assistant there said to me, why not pay the money, or can you not pay? We're all struggling, we're all in the same boat at the moment, we're all struggling to pay bills, we've got fuel, gas prices increasing and so forth. So an extra burden to pay for these CPC courses is an extra burden, an extra purse that's got to be paid for, and like, if we're all struggling, how are we going to do it?
Yeah. Well, so that is it. The course you did to when you left becoming a lorry driver to become an electrician, did that cost you?
No, you see, when I say all of the HG heavy goods, class 1 class 2, you've probably got a new licence, what we call a 7.5-ton licence, where you've got the grandfather rights.
So it's a standard licence?
Yeah, your licence entitles to drive up to 7.5 ton plus C1 or something like that, so you can also tow on top of the 7.5, so it enables you to haul a lot more materials around. But because of that CPC, you know, I've spent thousands to become an electrician, but I don't, you know, if I didn't want to do extra hours, it's because I'm broke, like most people. I just work all hours that God said, and people got paid to live. I can't afford to pay for a CPC, what that chap said, to suck bald eggs basically. It's just common sense, really. The government get rid of it. I mean, I'm more than willing.
So Stuart, you're one of those guys that the other caller, was it James, I think it was, who said if you scrap the CPC, you're one of the guys that would say, yeah, I would go and drive a lorry.
Basically, I inquired about it like last week or 2 weeks ago, no more than that anyway, because I'm seriously thinking about getting in a wagon and doing some extra shifts here, there, what is it possible. But it's that thing, I haven't got £200 and something. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got things going on, it is a lot of money.
Yeah, let's remember the average salary in this country is £30,000 a year, so it's a lot of money to a lot of people. Stuart, thanks for calling.
I went out at 3:30 this morning, literally, to go to court today for a case. I had no fuel in my tank, I had like 20 miles and it went out. At 3:30 in the morning, we got petrol. Come on.
You know, it's funny because our generation never lived through this kind of situation. But those born just before I was born in the 70s. They'd been through this because obviously I was a baby. You know, maybe if I lived through it, but in the 70s we've been through this. This is one of those experiences that I imagine we'll be talking about in 10, 20 years' time. This kind of really odd time that we're in that began. I don't know when you want to say it began. Let's say it began with Brexit and then Trump and then the pandemic and now this. I mean, it's a strange time we're in. Sometimes I wonder if we've crossed timelines. I was just speaking to our producers here about whether or not something happened in the Hadron Collider and start we're in an alternate Star Trek universe. But we're in a really, really strange time. Everything seems to be falling apart. Thanks for calling, Stuart. Going to read a text. Kirsty, you're next. We'll come to you after the breaks and give you a bit more time. Going to read a text here because it's also very good. It says the fuel problem at the moment has absolutely nothing to do with lorry drivers. Well, it does have a bit to do with lorry drivers, but it carries on. It has nothing to do with lorry drivers, COVID, Brexit, or the current government. I think it's got a bit to do with all of those things, but the text carries on. The blame lies squarely with the media. See, this is why I'm reading the text because that part's probably also a bit correct as well. The blame lies squarely with the media. 2 days ago, 4 BP forecourts out of over 1,000 ran out, which caused the media to hunt down the 4 with sensationalist reports of a national shortage. And now, this. Well done, British media. You know what? There's something to that. There is something to the idea that when 4 ran, of course the media has to cover it though, yeah? But there is something to a self-fulfilling prophecy. And panic buying kicks off when people read the stories. And if it was
Can you imagine?
4 pops that had a shortage, and then people read those stories.
What started all this?
Of course, you can see how that
4 BP stations out of 1,000 of their stations ran out. The media reported on it, and everyone panicked. What people don't realize, there's not only 1,000 petrol stations in England.
Keep calm and carry on.
That's just 1,000 of one particular company, BP. You got Shell, you got Esso, you got Tesco's, you got Sainsbury, you got Morrison's, you got so many, you got Gulf. There's loads. There's loads of them. So,
I told you they have to rejoin the European Union. And so there will be some people motivated to make this.
But I guess because they're thinking, well, BP is like a big brand. If they start running out,
to the way in which causes, mine or other people's causes, get appropriated by people with nefarious intentions and selfish aims.
No indication.
So let's do remember that, because the world isn't as innocent as we like to believe. Right, Kirsty, you're next. The time here on LBC is 1:47.
LBC.
I'm David Lammy here on LBC. We've lost Gavin Williamson, but you might say we should have lost him months ago. Months and months ago, after the fiasco of GCSE's finals. Gavin Williamson has gone, and into Culture Secretary Nadine Dorris. Really? Dominic Raab is now my opponent, but he should have gone ages ago. Join me, David Lammy, today from 4. Listen on the radio and on Global Player. LBC.
Winner. Can you hear it? That's a winner. And another one. That's the sound of sweet, sweet, epic downtime. With a winner every second at PokerStars Casino, nothing never sounded so good.
Join PokerStars Casino today and get a £20 free bonus on sign-up. Are you in? New casino players, slots games only, 100 redemption points to clear bonus. Terms apply, 18 plus, pay responsibly, begambleaware.org.
When your tenants have a burst pipe, superheroes crashing through the wall isn't going to help anyone. With Direct Line Landlord Emergency Eventual Policy, we're on it to send a rather super plumber in 4 hours and guarantee they'll use the doorbell. We can also assemble locksmiths, glaziers, electricians and drainage engineers. Search Direct Line Landlord Emergency. We're on it. Direct Line. Residential properties. Optional add-on up to 1,500 per caller. Extreme weather conditions may extend response time. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Small discoveries and big impressions. Passion and peace, urban jungle and pure nature.
All that's missing from your dream destination
060600973. Don't worry, we're going to carry this on for the next hour as well. So if you don't get through during this hour, keep calling on this. We're asking you about the lorry driver shortage. Is Boris Johnson losing control? What does he need to do to get a grip on the situation? I suggest he does something fast. The impression is that he's not really got a grip on the situation, and panic buying has set off, which isn't helpful for anyone really. Let's go back to calls. Kirsty's been waiting patiently. He's a new call from Greenock. Is it Greenock?
Yeah, Greenock in Scotland.
Kirsty, tell us what you think.
Oh my days. She said up here in Scotland we think Boris Johnson is a clown. Poor Boris. He's a clown though.
Prepare to keep left soon and continue to follow the M6.
Kirsty is done. Well, there's lots of those sorts, Kirsty, there's lots of those sorts of calls on both sides of the debate. So that doesn't really, if you go to the opinion polls, that's pretty much where it was. So, but listen, Kirsty, here's the thing, Kirsty, can I just say, it's done. Yeah? I voted Remain, we lost. Right? It's done. And we've got to try and work out now. And of course, this would always happen. Let's not pretend that Brexit voters didn't know that by ending freedom of movement, that wages would go up domestically, which would lead to labor.
Keep left after 3/4 of a mile and continue to follow the M6.
In different industries that pay higher. Right, this is exactly what they voted for because they wanted to end the global supply of cheap labour to push up domestic labour prices, which is what all the Red Wall Street crisis was about, and it's why all the Red Wall started voting Tory because they felt neglected. And on a human empathy level, I can see why they were upset and empathise with why they were angry that they were, for over a decade, their wages were being depreciated. I get that, I can see it because where I was born, a coastal town, and it's the same for coastal towns all across the country.
Keep next left.
Coastal towns like Southend-on-Sea in Essex, where I was born, deteriorating and ending up becoming like barren with the high streets empty and people depressed at the state of their towns because of...
Prepare to turn left at exit 11 and follow the A460.
Yeah, carry on. How does that relate to what I just said, Kirsty?
Turn left at exit 11 and follow the A460.
Kirsty, I just made a point to you. Can you understand why people voted Brexit? No, Kirsty, I'm asking if you can understand why people who did vote Brexit voted for Brexit. No, that's not true. Everyone lies. Politicians lie to everyone. That's not the point. I'm asking you why. Because Kirsty, hold on. No, Kirsty, I'm sorry. Look, Boris Johnson, Tony Blair.
Turn left.
Not just the Brexit campaign. So that's what politicians do. So let's put that one to a side for a second. I'm sure Sturgeon has a fair share of lies as well, right? As does Sand. So let's put that aside for a second.
After 400 yards, leave the roundabout at the first exit and follow the A460.
Always do. But why people voted Brexit, let's not pretend that they didn't know their own reasons for why they voted. Because that's looking down on them and pretending they're stupid. And they're not stupid.
The government that lied to the people, now that the people realise the consequences of what the vote is, surely in a democracy, you have a right to say, okay, fine, Brexit has happened. Now these are the consequences of Brexit.
Leave the roundabout at the first exit.
It's not going to be reversed, Kirsty. it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And first of all, before we even get to whether that's a realistic thing, which is frankly not, but before we even get to that, I'm asking you something which I'd appreciate if you could address. Do you not think that people that voted Brexit know what they voted for?
After 600 yards, leave the roundabout at the third exit and continue to follow the A460.
That gentleman is one voice, but I'm saying if you look to the polls, it's pretty much static, right?
Leave the roundabout at the third exit.
People overwhelmingly are still where they were and how they voted, and that's why let's not just define our entire conversation by one person's opinion, but actually the polls because I'm going to get a question because the polls indicate that people are where they were. They haven't budged on this, yeah? They haven't gone this way or that way. So back to the point. Let's not pretend that we understand things that people that voted Brexit don't, and that somehow that they are too stupid to understand what they voted for. Because, Kirsty, I imagine you voted.
After 400 yards, leave the roundabout at the first exit and continue to follow the A460.
And said you're too stupid to realise that Scotland can't stand on its own 2 feet because England subsidises Scotland, and that you've been lied to by the SNP, Kirsty. You wouldn't like that, would you?
Leave the roundabout at the first exit.
An example I just gave you. I'm not actually trying to debate that point. Kirsty, sorry, I'm not trying to debate that point as to whether England subsidises Scotland. I'm trying to say, how would you feel if you were told that you are too unintelligent to understand?
Follow the road for 1 mile.
So 2 feet, and that England subsidises Scotland. How would you feel if I started using the same techniques on you for voting for Scottish independence? Kirsty, please answer the question. Would you like it if I said you're too stupid to understand that Scotland can't stand on their own 2 feet? There you go. You see, you wouldn't like it, Kirsty. So let's not pretend Brexit voters don't know what they voted for, just because you don't agree with them. I don't agree with you voting for Scottish independence, but I don't think you're too stupid to understand why you voted for it. Do you understand my point, Kirsty? I know you did, and I'm saying I don't agree with you, and I respect the fact you voted for it because you have your own reasons. And I respect the fact that you understand your reasons, Kirsty. Kirsty, would you... No, I don't want to hear the point until you answer the question, please. Would you appreciate it if I acknowledged the fact that you chose to vote for Scottish independence and looked down on you for voting in a way that I didn't agree with?
After 500 yards, leave the roundabout at the fourth exit and follow Walsall Road.
Kirsty, you're bringing it back to Brexit, and I'm not going to allow you to disparage people without first addressing the point that you wouldn't like to be disparaged for your own vote, voting for Scottish independence, would you?
No, but I have not gone against any people at all.
You have.
You
have. Of course you have. Because half of Scotland didn't vote for Scottish independence. In fact, more people did not vote for Scottish independence than did, which is why you haven't got it yet. So half of the country did not vote for it. Would you like it if they disparaged your vote and told you didn't understand what you were voting for? No, for Scottish independence, Kirsty.
Turn left, then take the next left turn.
The basic fundamental point I'm making is quite simple. Let's stop looking down on people just because we disagree with them. You had the right to vote for Scottish.
Turn next left, then take the next right turn immediately.
And I respect the fact that they have the ability to decide what they believe in without people who think they're right thinking they're better than them and that they didn't understand what they voted for. That kind of narrative is what's dividing us in this country. It's turning us against each other. And we've got to realise that people have their own minds and that there's an internal logic for why you voted for Scottish independence and there's an internal logic for why Brexiters voted for Brexit. They're not stupid. They didn't have the walking over their eyes. They know what they voted for. They've got what they wanted, which is wage increases in Britain. This is precisely what they wanted. And they knew there would be short-term structural hardship because that's what...
Follow the road for 3 miles. The route includes toll roads.
The only relevant question right now is how we get through it. It's not relevant saying...
Remember that bridge we came over?
This is all their fault. They knew exactly what they voted for and they got what they voted for. And wage increases is specifically what they wanted. what you're voting for. Because that's the kind of looking down on people and trying everybody, I'm asking everybody to stop doing. This sounds like the topic is going to carry on for the next hour if you haven't got
That's
yet.
true,
Don't
because it's
worry.
not on.
We'll continue this. The lines are open before now. It's time for the news.
Because the thing is on that side, isn't it?
On Global Player and
LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 2 o'clock, some petrol stations have closed after running out of fuel. Long queues could be seen on other forecourts due to worries of a shortage of supplies due to a lack of HGV drivers. Lincolnshire police have urged motorists to be sensible about filling up and some seen with jerry cans in the boots of their vehicles. It's understood that the government is set to temporarily ease visa rules for foreign truckers, ministers saying there is ample fuel in stock. Victoria Short from Randstad Recruitment Agency says far fewer drivers have qualified recently.
In a usual year, you'd see about over 70,000 people take their HGV driving tests, and actually during the pandemic, that reduced by 30,000.
Sir Keir Starmer's told reporters Labour's ruling National Executive Committee has backed his revised set of party reforms after resistance to the original proposals. They still have to be approved by delegates at the party's conference in Brighton. A book of condolence has been opened for those wishing to pay tribute to primary school teacher Sabina Nessa. The 28-year-old's body was discovered.
Prepare to turn left soon and follow the A5195.
Community centre, which is close to where she was found, says it's for anyone who wants to write something, with a prayer room also available. Sabina's uncle, Shaheen Maya, says her family are devastated.
My family is, everyone is breakdown, so especially my brother and sister-in-law, they can't eat, they can't sleep, they can't talk, there is breakdown, so we don't know what to do. Our own family is very sad.
Tottenham manager Nuno Espirito Santo has become the first in the Premier League to admit he's not adhering to new guidance on him. Clubs across the professional game are advised to limit high-force headers to 10 a week in practice.
Turn left at the first exit and follow the A5195.
He's worried about that, but it's difficult to control.
I'm concerned with the situation of the nation and what's heading to Balkan cause. I don't count how many times our players have won. I may not get myself into this. Football is jumping, heading, it's part of the game.
Thousands of acres of new woodland are to be planted alongside rivers to help boost water quality and wildlife. The project will focus on 6 catchment areas from Cumbria to Devon. And the weather, warm sunshine in central, eastern and northeastern areas. Southern England brightening up later, a high of 23. From Global's newsroom, I'm Tim.
Turn left.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Majid Nawaz.
Oh, I thought it was closed. For these 3 things.
Driver shortage debate, but before we do, James Goodison, LBC's reporter, is at a petrol station in Brixton. Brings us up to date. James.
Imagine I've been outside here since 6 o'clock this morning, and there has been a huge change in the scenery at the start and throughout most of the morning. There was a huge queue of traffic outside of this petrol station, all the way down the roads. At times, 20 or 30 cars waiting to get in, all queuing in the bus lane, and traffic sort of weaves round them.
After 400 yards, leave the roundabout at the first exit and follow the A5195.
Petrol station ran out of
Why is it
petrol.
telling me
Instead, all
that's
of
for
the
wide
fuel
load?
ports are wrapped around with red tape and some barricades as well. And
I don't know if this is where it need to be.
They swing in,
Is where it need to be.
Yeah,
top up their car, they swing in, they get the sign, no fuel, they see the red tape, and
But
then they
this
sort of
is red.
sadly pull out.
Yeah, you
and
got to
away
stop
again.
here.
And we've also seen stories
Just like
like
we did
this and
last time.
scenes like this up and down the country today. From
Oh,
Brighton to the
there's-
northwest.
have you got a
It's
card?
a similar story in a number
Card.
of different petrol
I've
stations,
got a
all
tab.
because of the shortage of
Yeah.
HGV drivers. The government continually insisting we have enough petrol. It's just we don't have the staff, the manpower.
Oh my God. The
to
last
get
one had
all
someone
the
in it.
petrol stations topped up with everything they need, but they are looking into ways to remedy that, making a statement saying temporary
Oh.
measures to avoid any immediate problems are being looked at. It's pretty well understood that what that means is tomorrow the government will set out.
Oh my days.
I wonder how much it was
to make
inside.
it easier for companies to recruit drivers from abroad. It's understood
Just
that
check on the app, innit?
5,000 temporary visas
when your phone up.
Leave the roundabout at the first exit.
Said to be around 100,000. So this really is a problem.
Is your bank account
The
linked to your
reason
phone?
they've held off on doing this before is because they hope that the labour shortage we've seen will drive up wages and make it more attractive to people already living in the UK. But of course, there are short-term consequences of that, as we've seen this morning with the lines up and down various roads of Britain. We're set to see more details tomorrow.
Thank you very much. That's LBC's reporter, James Goodison. We'll also bring an update from James in the next hour as well, I think, because he's out there.
After 500 yards, leave the roundabout at the third exit.
I want to re-emphasise this blame game has to stop, because things are going to get a bit more difficult in the winter, and unless we nip it in the bud now, we're in danger.
Leave the roundabout at the third exit, then take the next left turn.
It's up on the LBC website and on our Twitter feeds. You can have a look at the conversation. It went very similar to the chat I just had with Kirsty, except it was Tim. And again, it didn't go very well because this insistence on saying, no, it is only Brexit and we have to rejoin the European Union is a part truth. It's a half truth. It's not the full truth. And the other thing is it ignores the idea that Brexiters knew what they were voting for and actually have got what they were voting for, which is wage increases in Britain and an end to the cheaper global supply of labour. Now, even yesterday, Tim was saying that he, in the end, by the end of it, he was saying he wasn't blaming Brexit voters. But here's a direct quote from the conversation. So
keep next left, then take the next left turn immediately.
It's not to be able to get petrol, not to be able to get fruit, not to be able to get food. That's not why Brexiters voted for Brexit. And it's such a cheap caricature to say that's what they wanted, when actually
turn next left
was an end to the cheap supply of global labour coming into Britain, which you may agree or disagree with, but let's not pretend that there's not an internal logic to that. Let's not pretend that doesn't affect some people on the lower end of the wage ladder in this country, such as those red wall seats. Let's have empathy for people who have suffered due to the economic restructuring that globalisation has caused. Whether they're in the Rust Belt in America and they voted for Trump, or they're in the red wall seats here in Britain and switched to Tory this time around, because they're suffering. Their standard of living has been plummeting. And if you haven't been affected by it, great, you're lucky. But let's not pretend people were.
After 400 yards, leave the roundabout at the second exit and continue to follow the A5.
I've seen people suffer from this plummeting standard of living due to the cheap supply of global labour. What's happened as a result to inequality, by the way, and this you can look at, it's just fact, is that global...
Leave the roundabout at the second exit.
There was a levelling up globally, but domestic inequality rose. And that's quite, by the way, quite logical if you think about it. Because as we started levelling up globally,
follow the road for 1 mile.
Inequality domestically. In other words, more people from abroad got access to wealth, but that came at the expense of those on the lower end of our income domestically, because they were taking the jobs for lower wages that otherwise would have gone to those people domestically who would have demanded higher wages because they live in this country and have to spend in this country, which is why they need higher wages, as opposed to being here temporarily and leaving again and going to countries where it's cheaper to live.
Always at once.
So, you know, this inability to empathise with why people voted for Brexit is at the root often of some of the division in our society, and it's very important that we don't lose that ability to see why people vote certain ways. I understand why people voted for Scottish independence, though I don't support Scottish independence, and I will never disparage and look down on that and say you never understood what you voted for. Likewise, we shouldn't do that to Brexiters, we shouldn't do it to Remainers. People vote for an array.
After 500 yards, leave the roundabout at the third exit and continue to follow the A5.
Divisive debates. It's really important that we understand that. 03456060973 is Boris Johnson losing control of the situation with the lorry driver crisis and what's...
Leave the roundabout at the third exit.
I've outlined an array of factors, including, yes, Brexit. One of them is Brexit and the red tape that's caused by Brexit, but also global labour shortages, not just in the UK, where we have 100,000 shortage, but in continental Europe, where there's 400,000 shortage, in the US, where since lockdown a 6% reduction in their labour force has occurred. So there's a global labour shortage, there's Brexit, there's lockdown that caused a lot of this problem.
Follow the road for 2 miles.
Which currently still has 600,000 people on it in this country, with 1 million jobs vacancies going. You know, that's also part of the problem. Then there's the IR35 changes and the
leave the roundabout at the third exit, then take the next left turn immediately and continue to follow the A5. Leave the roundabout at the third exit, then take the next left turn immediately.
The lady, and there's also a lady from Scotland, you know, the narrative of Remain was always, you people have been lied to, you won't tell the truth, but actually, please remember that Cameron and Osborne put out, do you remember they put out a leaflet across the country before anything else went out, with all the reasons why you should stay in Europe.
Yeah.
And
funded by government, by the way.
yeah, it was exactly, because whatever it was. And so the thing, and I mean, I voted for Brexit because I didn't have too much control from Europe. I was a senior tutor, but I found that they, for some reason, they always had to have things in masters for the anybody. I mean, but as far as the people, I'm still very glad it's free. So I understand for the media, you know, what you start the media and the news. Okay.
Turn next left.
Maybe we were all running around last year, you know, we were all free. Why did they resurrect the driving test then? Because I can't understand, the driving test we shut all the time.
What's shut all the time, Patricia?
The HGV testing, testing for drivers to get the license. As far as I understand, they've been closed all the time. So why?
But is that because they're not having any applications? Because I understand that there's a shortage of people actually even wanting to do the job in the first place.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you can tell what these tests are saying, but don't be responsible.
Follow the road for 1 mile.
I find that lorry driver really, really interesting because when all these tests are from Europe, they can't drive without this qualification. And I mean, I've checked people for everything.
Potatoes for sale. £10. Is it £10 for 2 bags? Should be the red ones, isn't it?
Well, that's something that's being suggested.
That's big, massive bags. That's like 5 kilos, isn't it?
But I don't know if that's going to fix it.
10 kilo bag.
We've been made aware by some of our callers, and that is that they still have to get through the paperwork to qualify to be able to actually drive these things. And do they have the up-to-date paperwork? And it's all up in the air at the moment. I do wonder whether this government has realised the extent of the crisis that we're in at the moment and why they're not putting their finger out. Patricia, thank you for calling for Windsor. Now, this tweet is an example when I was talking about the disparaging attitude. This is from somebody calling themselves the gatekeeper. You make excuses for Brexiters, for Trump supporters, and people from the far right. England is a xenophobic, bigoted, racist bunch of idiots.
After 700 yards, leave the roundabout at the 4th exit and follow the A38.
Surely I should understand what racism is. And I should understand what far right are and what xenophobia is. And yet I'm being preached at about racism, xenophobia, and the far right. You see, people have lost their minds. And people are so deep into the blame game that they don't even realise. It's like the chap yesterday I quoted Tim, he's calling up and I'm disputing with him. He says, well, what do you think this is, the Majid Abbas show? I'm like, you just called my show, mate. It's like, you've lost your minds, people. You're so intent on blaming, yeah? I've just had another tweet there after I had a chat with Kirsty and somebody says, get back Sheila Fogarty. This isn't Sheila's slot, this is my slot. You've lost your minds, people. You're so keen to blame, right? You're so keen to point fingers that any sense of reason or rational conversation is lost. Now that's the problem, we start turning on each other. And then we start talking at people as if, look, I know what racism is, I know who the far right are. More so than that tweeter, most likely. I would think so, having running street battles with them, armed knife fights with them when I was 15 because they were trying to stab me and hit me with hammers. Yeah, so let's not, let's try and understand where people are coming from. And you can only do that if
turn left.
Forms of empathy, which I believe has been lost because we've stopped thinking critically about things. We've stopped asking why, we've stopped analysing events, and instead we're basically following our tribes in echo chambers, virtue signaling about our political views without really understanding them, because really what we're trying to do is be liked by our friends rather than around the truth. It's a very destructive and unfortunately encouraging, driven by social media, destructive trend.
Follow the road for 3 miles.
We're going to carry this on after the break, folks. For the time for now being, the time for now is 2:17.
LBC.
When your demons have a burst pipe, superheroes crashing through the wall isn't going to help anyone. Direct Line landlord emergency energy policy. We are meant to send a rather super plumber within 4 hours and guarantee they'll use the doorbell. We can also assemble locksmiths, glaziers, electricians, and drainage engineers. Search Direct Line landlord emergency. We are it. Direct Line residential properties. Optional add-on up to 1,500 per quarter. Extreme weather conditions make safe response time. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
If you want superior security, you need the Simply Safe family.
We're a tight-knit network of super smart sensors.
Here to keep your home safe. I look after your entryways.
System starts at just $249.
You can set this up yourself.
Doors, windows.
And for just $12.99 a month, you'll get professional monitoring from a security expert like me.
Cat flaps too.
Visit simplysafe.co.uk to find out more. And let our family look out for yours. T's and C's apply.
Larry photographed stars in the 60s. He saw fame captured from the sidelines. Supermodels staring back at him through his lens. Sessions at the recording studio with the biggest band on earth. Now, Specsavers home visit opticians help him keep everything in focus. Larry is just one of the amazing people we meet on our home visits. Find out if you or a loved one are eligible for a free NHS-funded home eye test by searching Specsavers home visits online.
With PokerStars Casino, my downtime is epic. But I played PokerStars Casino games when I wanted a little fun. Between everything else I got going on, that's it. No more. So take all the time out you need and set your limits. And if it's not fun, do something else. Then, and only then, will your downtime be epic.
Find out more at pokerstars.uk/playsafer. 18 plus, begambleaware.org. Play responsibly.
That's the soothing sound of a barbershop quartet that have found the better way to buy a quality car from Kazoo. All Kazoo cars pass a thorough 300-point inspection, come with a 90-day warranty, roadside assistance, and a 7-day money-back guarantee. That's one whole week to make sure they love it. Can you buy a quality car that's guaranteed to leave you happy? Kazoo, yeah you can.
When you own a small business, whether you're an IT consultant or selling flowers, your tech is your lifeline. But with Direct Line Business Tech Essentials, you can get your stolen or damaged tech replaced in 24 hours with their approval. Whether it's laptops, phones, or tablets, we implement. Search Direct Line Business Insurance. Direct Line.
Cover and claim limits apply. Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Except bank holidays. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Across the UK, thousands of people are switching broadband every day because they've realised if they're out of contract, they could be out of pocket. There's never been a better time to switch and save. Get Vodafone Superfast broadband from only £19.50 a month. Switch today. Together we can.
After 500 yards, leave the roundabout at the second exit and follow the A446.
Cheaper versus publicly available out of contract non-promotional per month pricing with competitors as of 17th of the 8th, 2021. Terms of verification at vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Magic Wires on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Good afternoon, it's Magic Wires here. Robert is next on the line. Just very quickly, there's a text here from Neil. Magic, could you please explain where this number of 100k drivers are needed in the UK came from? It seems a very high number to me. Neil in Swansea. Thank you for asking, Neil. The number is in today's Times. The article's headline, Panic Buying at Petrol Stations Firm Sets £30 Limit, by Stephen Swinford, the political editor, and George Grills, the political reporter. Friday, September 24th, 2021. The line I'm getting it from, a shortage of 100,000 HGV drivers has led to widespread...
Follow the road for 3 miles.
It's in that article. Right,
okay?
03456060973. Lines are open. Robert from Alden and Essex. Welcome.
Hello, Magic. Yes. You're a compassionate man. I can sense that. From what you've been saying, and I appreciate that. I'm in Alden and Essex, and the thing that's with me, when you introduced this article about PM losing his grip, well, it seems to me that if he's wanting, drivers to come in from EU and other places, 5,000, I mean, what makes him think that they're going to want to come roaring back
going to get 100,000 from it, are you?
Well, no, even 5,000 I'm pushing it. I mean, because those people will be carrying a licence that, as I understand it from my work, that if I used, the HGV was Europe licence, so if I wanted to go and drive around in Spain on the licence I got over here, I could, and vice versa. As I understand now from the same guy speaking earlier, obviously that doesn't count anymore either. So I couldn't just go and work down in Spain on the licence I got over here, as you could do. So, I mean, if you're asking the question, has Boris Johnson sort of lost control, if he is not getting very good advice, sort of floundering off with that, then I'm just making that point. And also,
You're correct. And did you know that his Transport Secretary, Donald Shapps, advised him against that because he said it won't help and that in the long run it may hinder? Because if the problem, as you've identified, is a shortage domestically, which won't be plugged by European drivers because there's a shortage in Europe, if you even did manage to somehow bring 5,000 over, you'd have to offer them higher wages because clearly they're being offered the same over there because there's a shortage there, which undercuts once again the domestic market and prevents people domestically wanting to enter that industry.
For sure. I mean, on a sort of basic working man level, I can tell you that the service stations in Europe are a lot more equipped to deal with lorry drivers over there than they are here. I mean, I can't see the appeal for a Polish lad or whatever to come back over here to do, even if you've got a little bit more money, So I'm just making the point, I suppose, because the Boris Johnson hadn't lost it. Now, it seems to me that it's the advisors that seem to be the problem. The government, they don't seem to have very much good advice, and I'm keeping clear of blaming things, so I appreciate where you're coming from very much so attached, and I understand that. So, like, for example, why did Boris Johnson get COVID, Was he badly advised? Most people say,